Why, hello everyone. Gleekon is the person talking into your ears right now, and I'm delighted to be doing so. Thank you for clicking, for watching, for tuning in. If you like what unfolds on this episode, or any of the previous ones we have, please like, subscribe, share, create like 10, 20, 50 burner accounts and have them like too. Leave comments, help that algorithm flourish. This is a show, Lore of Warcraft, where we cover everything in the World of Warcraft universe, and we've been doing it for years. In all of that time, we've barely got up to the World of Warcraft Classic period because we cover everything print, video, and game, both canon and non-canon. And when we play the games, we play the games. We cover every single thing in them. We're currently doing a World of Warcraft Classic walkthrough. We have just begun doing Dustwallow Marsh as a horde. We finished it with Alliance a few days ago. This is our weekly non-canon check-in. So there was a site, used to be canon, the Warcraft Encyclopedia. It's now defunct. There are a few places you can find it. One of the easiest is on Wowpedia. But these things have been subsumed by what is now Chronicles. But it's still interesting to go back and look at these individual entries. Most of it still applies, and from a sort of archaeological perspective, it's kind of neat to see what has changed. So today's episode is going to be on Dath'Remar Sunstrider. It is actually 3 entries. We're going to cover all 3, and they might be taking us a little bit past where we are in the non-canon encyclopedia entries, which is still the time of the ancients, the War of the Ancients. Stay a while and listen now as we dive into this articulo. Dath'Remar Sunstrider is a high elf, now a blood elf. Dath'Remar Sunstrider was born a member of the wealthy and powerful Highborn. His family name was an ancient one, but most night elves had always considered it somewhat odd, given that they were primarily a nocturnal people who worshipped the goddess Elune. So the fact that his name was Sunstrider was a little bit out of place among the night elves, the moon-worshipping people. Even his appearance was strange, for his auburn hair bore streaks of gold. It still does. So that was kind of probably like a genetic herald as to the fact that he would be part of that sect that moved out of the Kalimdor continent and set out on their own. A poor bargain. Regardless of Dath'Remar's unusual name and appearance, he, like the rest of his caste, was fascinated by the first well of eternity. Over time, Queen Azshara and the rest of the Highborn became obsessed with studying and harnessing the well's magic. Their abuse of that magic provoked violent storms around the well and attracted the notice of Sargeras, the Dark Titan, who quickly enthralled the helpless Night Elves and bent them to his will. He promised to remake Azeroth into a paradise if the Night Elves helped him enter their world. Working toward that goal, the deluded Highborn summoned increasing numbers of the Burning Legion into the palace. Eventually, these demons marched out of the palace and began slaughtering Night Elves. They quickly leveled most of the capital city, Zin-Azshara. Only the Highborn and their homes were spared. The Night Elf race scrambled to defend itself, and the War of the Ancients broke out. Even so, the Highborn worked feverishly to widen and stabilize the portal they had opened into the twisting nether, so that Sargeras could use it to reach Azeroth. They abandoned all their other studies of the well. They hardly slept, if at all, and they ate and drank so little that they became skeletally thin. Even so, Sargeras' lieutenants were displeased with the Highborn's slow progress and proved quick to slay spellcasters who faltered in their duties. Many of the Highborn broke free of Sargeras' influence and realized that they had made a foolish choice in serving the Legion. Although Sargeras had made glorious promises, he had provided nothing but grueling and thankless work. It seemed likely that instead of rebuilding the world, Sargeras intended to destroy it. Silly Highborn. Escape from Zin-Azshara. Word reached Dath'Remar that High Priestess Tyrande Whisperwind had been captured by the Legion and taken to the palace. He was appalled to hear that the leader of the Sisters of Elune had been made a prisoner of the demons. Accordingly, he learned the location of her prison cell and paid her a secret visit. She proved a sympathetic listener, and so he found himself confiding in her. Working in secret, he formed a desperate plan. He contacted all the other Highborn who had come to consider the Burning Legion the enemy, Then he went to visit Tyrande one last time. This all, by the way, unfolds in detail. These conversations articulated quite well by Christy Golden, or no, whoever it is that writes The War of the Ancients. Not Christy Golden, it's the other guy. Jeff something? Grubb, maybe? He explained that he and a group of other Highborn were leaving the palace. They had agreed to help her escape if she would speak to the Night Elf defenders on behalf of the rebel Highborn. She quickly agreed, for she believed in the compassionate teachings of Elune and felt that the Highborn deserved a chance to redeem themselves for their reckless actions. During the escape, Tyrande was unexpectedly separated from the rebel Highborn when she was snatched into the air by an attacking demon. Nevertheless, Dath'Remar and many of the other Highborn managed to escape the palace and rendezvous with the rest of the Night Elves. Moments later, the Great Sundering created a new ocean, and both groups of Night Elves were forced to flee for their lives. The rushing waters pursued the Elves all the way to Mount Hyjal before finally subsiding. In the aftermath of the war, relations between the Highborn and the rest of the Night Elves were strained. The Highborn's abuse of arcane magic had led to the Burning Legion's invasion and the shattering of ancient Kalimdor. Countless Night Elves had been killed by the demons, thus arcane magic was now a crime, punishable by death. Regardless, Dath'Remar and the rest of the Highborn continued practicing their sorcery. As the highest caste of ancient Night Elf society, the Highborn had studied arcane magic for more than 1,000 years before Queen Azshara came to the throne. Most other Night Elves had significantly less knowledge and skill at manipulating arcane energies. The Highborn had no intention of surrendering the magic they saw as their birthright. They felt that the lower caste majority had neither the right nor the ability to judge the safety of arcane magic. I can see both sides. Nor were the Highborn the only ones to maintain that arcane magic was worth pursuing. Dath'Remar and a few other Night Elves soon discovered that Illidan Stormrage had stolen several vials of pure energy from the first Well of Eternity, and then emptied 3 of the vials into a normal lake. In doing so, he had created a second Well of Eternity. He considered himself a hero, but most other Night Elves disagreed. They confiscated the remaining vials from Illidan and sentenced him to imprisonment for the rest of his immortal life. The Highborn were awed by what Illidan accomplished, and they soon grew bold in defying the new laws against arcane magic. They would not bow to the hysterical fears of the lower caste majority. The Highborn felt they had taken the necessary precautions by resolving to be more cautious than their predecessors, and after all, the Highborn had no desire to bring about another sundering. Rather than execute the Highborn, the rest of the Night Elves sentenced them to exile. The Highborn were thoroughly exasperated by what they saw as a foolish overreaction against sorcery. They were therefore not unhappy at the prospect of exile. On the contrary, they looked forward to it. Thinking ahead, they contrived to steal one of the magical vials that had been confiscated from Illidan. And that brings us to the founding of Quel'thalas. The exiled Highborn then eagerly sailed to the Eastern Kingdom, still under Dath'Remar's leadership. Gradually, the Highborn lost their connection to the Second Well of Eternity. Their skin's violet hue faded, they grew shorter in stature, and they lost their immortality. Like modern Night Elves, High Elves had long but finite lifespans. All the same, they struggled onward. Deep within the northern forests of the continent and the continent of Lordaeron, they founded the magical kingdom of Quel'thalas and renamed themselves High Elves. Using the vial they had stolen, the High Elves created the Sunwell, a fountain of magical energy that was weaker than the first and second wells. The Sunwell was designed to be constantly but exclusively available to the Night Elves, who chose its name as a further renunciation of Night Elf society. The High Elves crowned Dath'Remar Sunstrider as their first king. Up until the Scourge's invasion of Quel'thalas, the Sunstrider dynasty continued to hold the throne. The last monarch, King Anasterion, was slain by undead forces during the attack. His son, Prince Quel'thalas, is the only remaining survivor of the royal bloodline. Survivor should now be put in asterisk because those of you that have played through BFA and beyond, or maybe even just as early as Burning Crusade, can see that the Sunstrider line does not end well. But there's still some hero collabs as within Shadowlands. All right, everybody, that was another side journey, a jaunt, if you will. Ooh, jaunty. Thank you, everyone, for watching, for listening, for tuning in. Please share and spread that love into the world around you. And heck, with me too, with a comment, a like, or a subscribe. I'll see all of you next time on Lore of Warcraft.